Welcome to the Super Awesome You. Coming to you on the Super Awesome Mix Podcast Network, I'm your host, Samer Obuselby. Each week I'll be covering motivation, goals, some of the science behind these things, and of course I'll be adding one song to our ongoing motivation playlist, which is available in the show notes. If you enjoy the show, please pass it on and leave a 5-star review. It only takes about a minute, and it helps grow the show and reach more people, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. This week I'll be covering the topic of why visualizing your goals can actually help you achieve your goals. So there's a buzzword out there that gets thrown around a lot, and it's manifestation. There's so many topics, a lot of books, a lot of YouTube videos on the topic of manifestation. There's meditations you can do, there's dream boards you can create, or vision boards. There's a lot. And I'll be honest, it's really easy to eye roll at most of it, if not all of it. And I think part of that is because it feels a little mystical, right? If I were to ask anyone, what do they think about manifestation? Someone who's not maybe super aware of it, but they've heard of it, they would probably think about the book The Secret. They would probably think it's just, I don't know, a bunch of non-science things. And I think the way it's been presented, they would be mostly right. You know, it's hard to kind of take seriously this idea that if you can just dream something and then one day, you know, in a matter of weeks or months, it'll just show up at your door. Being interested in the topic of motivation and goals and everything, I always try to keep an open mind about things. And as I read more about this, since there's so many topics, so many books on this, I really thought about the times in my life where maybe it worked for me, where I had set a goal. And it's not that it showed up because it just showed up one day, but it did show up for me eventually. And I think a lot of it is because I had just decided it and just felt that it was mine to have. And so anytime I was faced with a decision, I would really think about, does this decision get me closer to that goal that I set? And we've covered this before on previous episodes where, thinking back to the book The Slight Edge, you really want to start to think about every single decision you make towards a goal. Does it get you a little bit closer or does it get you a little bit further away? And I think part of visualization and manifestation is you're kind of creating this foundation for a goal, and you're just creating a non-breakable contract with yourself of saying, I really want this and I'm going to get it. Now here's where the science part comes in and why I think it could actually work, especially the visualization part. So a lot of these books will tell you to do an activity where you really believe that you have this thing that you want. So for the purpose of an example, let's imagine that you want to run a marathon. And so they would tell you to sit down and do maybe one of these options or maybe do all of these things. You could write a journal entry having just finished the marathon. Like you're imagining that you just finished the marathon, you finished it in the time that you wanted. You know, you date it into the future. You would talk about how great it is, how amazing you feel, how wonderful it is to have run the marathon, how you trained for it. You would lay out all the things that you feel and how you've done it, obviously long before you've actually done it. You could create a vision board where you would find pictures of people running across the marathon finish line. You could put pictures of famous marathoners who, you know, achieve incredible times whenever they run. You could put medals everywhere of marathons that you hope to run one day and you want to get a finisher medal. You could also just close your eyes and imagine the feeling of running across that finish line and truly imagine it. They really want you to sit there and paint every single detail in your mind. And I think closing your eyes really helps because what you're doing is almost like projecting a movie in front of your eyes. And so you're not getting any kind of visual noise of what's actually around you. So if you are blessed with eyesight, our eyes basically act like movie projectors, as I just mentioned. They are, you know, cameras to take in everything around you and feed it into your brain. And in our brain is a part of the brain called the visual cortex. And the visual cortex is basically a processing unit dedicated to just what your eyes are telling it. You can think of it almost like a graphics card in a computer if you're familiar with how computers work. So when you close your eyes, you're cutting off that feed into your brain because now your eyes are closed and they're just basically getting blank data. It's really, really lightweight data. And instead, you are imagining things, and you are trying to paint this really vivid picture of what it's going to be like when you cross the finish line. So what's really interesting here is our brains actually don't really know the difference at a biological level between us painting a really vivid picture of a feeling, of a space, of a time, and actually being in that space and time and feeling. We experience this every single night if you dream. There are dreams that feel incredibly real to us if you remember your dreams, and that's because your brain does not differentiate between types of input. So the input could be what you're actually experiencing, and the input could be what you are putting in yourself through your creativity and your imagination. So manifestation and visualization is training your brain to imagine having done the thing that you want. So whatever your goal is, you are putting yourself in the mindset of really the true mindset of what it would feel or what you think it's going to feel like when you finish the goal. And that makes it that much more powerful in your mind when you are making those decisions of whether or not you're going to get a little bit closer this week, or you're just going to, for lack of a better term, slack off and not make those decisions and maybe go an off week. And we'll talk about off weeks and days off and things like that in a future episode. But for now, let's just imagine that this really helps cement the reality of it, because your brain experiences a bit of that reality when you are imagining it, or when you're journaling, or when you're creating a vision board. So when you go out into the world, you want to feel what you imagined. You already kind of did. And so you're going to subconsciously start to make decisions that help you actually reach that point in, let's say, the real world, and not just your dream world or your journal world or your vision board world. What makes them work in a way and what makes them so powerful is you let yourself imagine a future where you've done the thing that you want to do, and now you're just working your way backwards. That might be a year from now, and of course you can't control what you do tomorrow. You can't control what you do in 10 minutes, but you can control what you do right now. I recently ran a half marathon, and I can tell you that leading up to running the half and training for it all these weeks, I spent a lot of time just visualizing the run. I ran through the course map in my mind over and over and over again. I thought, here's where I'm going to speed up. Here's where I'm going to slow down. Here's where I'm going to take it easy. I imagined what it'd feel like to come across the finish line. And as I sat there thinking about these things, my heart rate would go up. It would slow down. I'd get excited. I'd get nervous. But I did all of those things as like a simulation so that whenever I was out there, it felt more familiar. It felt more achievable. And I'm happy to say I was able to run the half marathon in a record time for me, which is awesome. But it did not come without a lot of work. And I certainly didn't just wish for it and then one day do it. I had to continuously show up week after week and put in the hours of training and run the course, actually run the course. But I really believe that visualizing it and stepping through it mentally and preparing for it, not just physically, but mentally, helped me achieve it as well. So this week's song of the week is Rather Be by Clean Bandit. I love the vibe of this song. The violin play in it is still such an earworm for me. I can hear it as I talk about it right now. And I think it's appropriate for our topic because as you think about this future state where you have achieved one of your dreams, no matter how small or big they are, you can just really imagine there's no place you'd rather be. And so as you are making these decisions, these micro decisions throughout your day, do I eat this or not? Do I exercise or not? Do I write a page in my journal or not? Where else would you rather be? Thank you as always for following the show. Like I said, please share it with friends and family who you think would benefit from it and would enjoy it as well. Until next week, stay super awesome because you already are.